Hey, what's good everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're taking a look at another Master Classic team consisting of a Palkia lead with a Lugia and Excadrill backline. Palkia and Lugia are both new additions for me in Season 8 of GBL, so I thought it was a great opportunity for me to try to learn these Pokemon, find out their playstyles and where they kind of fit in the meta. And this wound up being a viewer-suggested team on my stream. However, I did find out much later on that it is one of the top-ranked teams on Pvpoke as well. So not a surprise to see any more, as I know where people were getting the idea for this team. And overall, this team is very interesting. It kind of plays like an ABB team. I would definitely say that one of the biggest threats to the backline is Giratina Origins, so not a bad idea to swap in Lugia early on to see if you can draw that out. And of course, you have two Pokemon in the back that are able to protect Palkia from things like Dialga. So yeah, overall the playstyle, I think it kind of depends on what you see in the lead, and you kind of just have to play intuitively. But I think it also creates fun situations where you know, you can really see the flexibility of the lines. So I wound up gaining about 130 points on stream here, and this was also the team that got me over to Expert this season. So a little bit of a fast forward from the previous video where I was looking at footage from a week ago. This was this previous week on my stream about the middle of the week. So let's go ahead and take a look into the battles. I'm going to show you guys a 4-1 set that I had. Alright, so getting into the first battle, we're going up against Ziggy Zarban. And we're going to be leading Palkia into a Groudon. So kind of dependent on the fast move of Groudon here, and it's actually going to be Mudshot. So this is a little bit better sometimes with shielding scenarios because the Dragon Tails are going to chunk from Groudon as they're super effective against Palkia, but you're dealing neutral damage back. And I'm going to beat it, of course, to the first move, and he's going to shield the Aqua Tails. This is a pretty good situation for me. I actually kind of make a gamble here, and I call the bait. And unfortunately, it is an Earthquake. Palkia is fairly squishy, so luckily for me, my opponent swaps into a Melmetal, so I can answer that with Excadrill. And looking at the team right now, if I just protect my Lugia here, I feel like I can close out the game, because with the biggest threat to Lugia kind of removed with the Melmetal, this puts me in a pretty good spot. So what I'm going to do here is, because the Melmetal is probably going to use Superpower here, I get the feeling that I can potentially just Mudshot this Melmetal down and come out with a bunch of energy. So Groudon is energy dry right now, and whatever's in the back potentially could be weak to Excadrill, because you kind of have like a pseudo steel counter in Melmetal, and then you have a Groudon that's going to be a hard check. So opponent is going to come back. I have a ton of energy here, so just going to go for the draw run, and I'm going to count the I'm going to go ahead and count the Mud Shots coming out of Groudon. So once again, energy dry, so expecting him to throw a Fire Punch right on cue. And I'm actually going to swap into Lugia here to catch the Fire Punch. So this way, you know, just in case there's something that's weak in the back, as the Groudon did shield, I can at least preserve the Excadrill and see what's there. And it turns out to be a Garchomp. So kind of an interesting team overall. This is a pretty anti-Steel, anti-Dialga team. And I know that I'm not going to be able to hit an Aeroblast before this Garchomp gets to a potential Outrage, so I'm going to throw a Sky Attack here to get it as low as possible. And of course, the Groudon throws, or the Garchomp throws here. This Outrage is actually not going to KO, which is a little bit worse for me, I think. But luckily, Lugia dealing super effective damage with those Dragon Tails. The Garchomp is not going to get to another move. So I'm going to come back in with Excadrill. I'm going to Mudshot down. So my opponent is 4 Mudshots away from or 5 Mudshots away from a Fire Punch. And the game is not over yet, because Groudon does win CMP over Excadrill. So I'm going to try to make another catch here, retaining the Palkia from before. And this is what's going to end up winning me the game. So opponent is going to throw another Fire Punch into a pretty useless Palkia here, and I've got the draw run ready to go. So had to make some interesting catches right there, but once again, it shows you the flexibility of this line. You have a lot of different options that you can go to, so GG's. Our second battle is up against Eternal 347, and we're going to be leading Palkia into a Mewtwo. So this is a pretty tricky matchup. Mewtwo is going to outpace us with those Side Strike damage, and Side Strike does hurt Palkia quite a bit. So I'm going to try to do some chip damage here and attempt a catch on my Lugia here. So going to see how this Mewtwo wants to play it out, and actually after the first Aqua Tail, my opponent decides not to shield, which is a kind of a good sign for me. So I'm going to go ahead and keep farming down. I am going to shield this up. And at this point, I realized I can try to catch the second Side Strike on my Lugia just to see what's in the back. So going to go ahead and make another catch again. You kind of have to do it with this team just to waste your opponent's energy. And preserving Palkia here is gonna hopefully draw out something that it can beat. But my opponent actually brings in a Dialga. So kind of a good situation for us here. I make a big mistake on Lugia. You should be going straight for Sky Attack and not Aeroblast. So Lugia can beat Dialga in the one shield. Probably not with that health disadvantage, but it can beat Dialga in the one shield going straight Sky Attack. So again, my opponent's probably going to shield this Aeroblast, which is not the worst situation. We're kind of even on shields right now, and I can bring in Excadrill, which is going to be a hard wall. So gonna wait my first timer out here and then send in the Excadrill. And my opponent has farmed quite a bit of energy, so I do have to respect the Draco Meteor. At this point, there's no reason for him not to throw the Draco Meteor, so gonna shield this up. I am down shields and shieldless with an Excadrill, but again, if my opponent stays in, I can farm up a ton of energy, and actually my opponent aggressively swaps into the Kyogre here. So this is kind of nice, and also the reason that we preserve the Palkia. Even with these Aqua Tails that are resisted, we're still going to be able to chunk this Kyogre plenty, and my hope here is that he does not reach the Blizzard. So so right now, 5 waterfalls for Kyogre. If he can hang on and get to the Blizzard, then we're going to be in a pretty rough spot here. But here, my opponent is going to throw on 8. So 8 is going to be a Thunder, and actually Palkia, despite taking neutral damage, being the Water typing and the Dragon typing, we're going to hang on by just a little bit, and because we double resist those waterfalls, going to do a simultaneous KO. But the game is not over yet because my opponent does have a very low health Mewtwo in the back, so going to have to watch out for that as well. And he brings back in the Dialga, so I'm going to try to overfarm here as much as I can. So I'm going to double up here on Drill Run, and I'm going to try to throw off my opponent and his counts. So he has to reach the Draco Meteor to KO. We would survive an Iron Head at this health, so just going to keep overfarming, anticipating the catch from Mewtwo, and at that point, the game is pretty much over. So GG's to my opponent right there, and a very cool team, and once again, showing off the flexibility of the squad. Our third battle of the set, we're going up against PvP Scan Team, and we're leading Palkia into a Togekiss. So one of the hardest walls to Palkia, we got to dip to our Lugia and see what our opponent responds with. So gonna go ahead and safe swap, and my opponent brings in a Giratina altered. So kind of a good situation because we definitely don't want our Excadrill to see this either. Here, once again, I'm going to try to go for the Aeroblast, which is again a mistake. So against Giratina altered and Dialga, I do believe that the better course of action is to build up to the Aeroblast and bait the Sky Attack. So gonna go for the Aeroblast here. And my opponent is definitely going to shield this. Ooh, a little bit of video issues right there, but opponent definitely shields the Aeroblast, and this means that we've lost the ability to try to get switch advantage, and I'm going to have to let the Lugia go down here. It's really not worth preserving at this point. So opponent is going to be able to farm us down. We try to get to the Sky Attack, but we're going to miss out by just a little bit, and unfortunately, we're going to be in a very uphill situation. So going to bring in the Palkia here and start to farm down. I'm going to have to eat one of these Dragon Claws, and I think the Giratina Altered actually has enough energy for another one. So, going to keep going. Going to shield this one up. And this is going to be a situation where Excadrill is really going to have to carry the game. But and actually, my opponent here loses his mind and gives up switch advantage for some reason. Had he just let the Giratina Ultra go down, he would have been in a fantastic spot. But this is the time that we can bring in our Excadrill to shine. So knowing that we're going to be able to hit 2 Rock Slides before the Togekiss gets to 10, I'm going to bank on this being an Ancient Power or an Aerial Ace. So no reason to shield here. And it is the Aerial Ace, so it does minimal damage to Excadrill. And at this point, I'm not expecting my opponent to shield because I do have the Aqua Tail banked on Palkia. There's really no reason for him to shield and try to farm down this Excadrill here, and he does let it go. And the last Pokemon for our opponent is Kyogre. So imagine that. If my opponent just stayed in with the Giratina Altered, we would have basically lost the game at that point. But now we have a chance to win, right? So I'm going to come in, we're going to be double resisting these these waterfalls, and we're going to be dealing neutral damage to the Dragon Tails. The only thing I have to watch out for in this situation, just like the last game, is not getting hit with a Thunder. So here, I actually count 7, so I'm not going to shield this, and it is a Surf. So this is really nice, and going to basically be able to double up on Aqua Tails. And this is not, of course, not going to KO the Kyogre, but it is going to put it into a manageable spot, and we're going to be able to lead this matchup with energy. So, going to hit the Aqua Tail here, and it is CMP on the 10th waterfall. This is a Surf, but I still have to shield, right? So, going to be a little bit too low. And here at this range, I can just Dragon Tail down the Kyogre, and my opponent has to swap back into the Giratina Altered. So despite this Aqua Tail being resisted, it is going to put it within 1 Dragon Tail here. And because we double resist the waterfalls, we're able to kind of slap down this Kyogre. Palkia is such a beast, and in this particular game, we got very lucky here. My opponent got very impatient here and aggressively swapped in the Togekiss, which we had the hard punish for. So GG's. For the 4th battle of the set, we're going up against Daimaru Banana, and we're going to be leading Palkia into a Best Buddy Giratina. So this one looks a little bit familiar, right? There are very few compositions that have a Best Buddy Giratina in lead, but I'm assuming there's going to be at least 1 Steel type in the back. So this is a good matchup for us overall. We do need to just shield once because the Giratina Origin, that Shadow Ball is going to hurt. So I'm going to go ahead and throw the Aqua Tail here as some chip damage, but as long as I shield the Shadow Ball, I should be able to farm down this Giratina comfortably. And kind of worried here because having a double steel backline kind of renders the Lugia pretty useless. So gonna go for Aqua Tail straight up here. Could have gone for the Fire Blast actually because Palkia would survive long enough to get there, but wasn't sure if I wanted to risk that or not. And I'm going to start Dragon Tailing and dealing some damage here. So the Melmetal here is going to start throwing out Rock Slides. This is not a great matchup for Palkia, but gonna eat the Rock Slide here, and my opponent actually is able to get off another Rock Slide here. So gonna let this go for now, and then kind of see how I want to play this out. So and I'll bring in the Excadrill and try to get an energy advantage here. But this is a tough situation because my opponent does still have both of his shields. So I'm going to have to come in and catch on the Lugia here. I expect this to be a superpower, and then Lugia can deal some serious damage here. So, and my opponent does superpower here, so it's going to be kind of tough for him to stay in. And I am going to reach the Sky Attack before the Giratina gets the next Shadow Ball. So kind of a good situation for us, removing a potentially big threat to Excadrill. But it's very interesting that my opponent did this because he brings back in the Melmetal, right? So I was expecting him, if he had a second steal, he probably would have brought that in. So now I'm getting the feeling that there might be something else in the back that I really don't want to see with my Excadrill. So gonna try to deal some damage with the Sky Attack as chip damage, and then see what my opponent does here. And as soon as my opponent shields the Sky Attack, I know that the jig is up. There's something else in the back, potentially a steel counter. So gonna shield this up here and try to Dragon Tail down this Melmetal. And we definitely have to pivot here. So thought it was going to be double steal. It definitely wasn't, and it's actually a Groudon in the back. So luckily though for us, this is a Mudshot Groudon, so I'm going to go ahead and bring the Excadrill in to sacrifice it. The goal here is to be able to deal damage with one Drill Run, and then try to get to double Sky Attack on Lugia. So going to go ahead and fire the first Drill Run. And here my Excadrill, poor Excadrill, is definitely going to eat an Earthquake over here, so gonna let this one go, trying to make sure that the Groudon is dry on energy, but I'm sure that he's built up some residual as well. So we're basically just three Dragon Tails away from the double Sky Attack, and I'm gonna have to take this Fire Punch. It's gonna be very close, but we're gonna get to the first Sky Attack here, which is gonna draw the shield from my opponent. And then as long as we can hang on for one more Dragon Tail, we're going to be able to take out this Groudon. So really close game right here. I thought Lugia was going to be completely useless, but in terms of alignment, you know, had we just brought in the Excadrill to meet the Melmetal, we would have been fine, but still found out a way to pull out the victory there. And for the last battle of the set, we're going up against Hugo Andres 11, and we're leading Palkia into Lugia. So this is a pretty bad matchup for Palkia. Lugia is kind of the superior dragon in this case. You're going to be taking super effective damage from those Dragon Tails. So I'm going to safe swap into Excadrill here, and unfortunately my opponent does have the Kyogre as well. Don't know if it would have been different if I would have swapped into Lugia here, but Lugia on Lugia is kind of another answer that I can have potentially in the end game. So I am going to reach 2 draw runs here with the slight energy advantage that I was able to get on Excadrill, but my opponent smartly decides to no shield here, which is pretty close, but it is a best buddy Kyogre, so it does have a little bit of extra bulk, and we miss out on switch advantage by just a sliver of health. So I'm gonna have to come in with Palkia and absorb this Surf, and now we're in a really bad spot. So kind of hoping though that once the Kyogre is gone, that we have a much more solid matchup for Lugia in the back. So my opponent does bring back in his own Lugia, and I'm gonna have to throw an Aqua Tail here just to buy some time for the switch clock to run out. And these Aqua Tails are going to do basically nothing to Lugia. It's a very bulky Pokemon, but I'm going to bring in my own Lugia here, and I'm expecting my opponent to throw an Aero Blast and then dip. So this puts us in kind of an awkward position because at the moment we're going to be down shields, but we will have an energy advantage on what's in the back, and unfortunately it is a Groudon, and it's a Dragon Tail Groudon as well. So Dragon Tail Groudon, definitely one of the huge upgrades in this split of Master Classic, and it actually has a very solid matchup against Lugia here, so especially with shield advantage. So I'm going to go for Sky Attacks here, trying to draw out some shields and trying to get this Groudon very low, but you can kind of see here, despite just having neutral damage from this Dragon Tail, it's just chunking away, and it doesn't really matter if my opponent wins or loses the matchup here, because the only thing that matters for him is the Lugia to be able to wall the rest of my team. So gonna have to end up taking another Fire Punch here, very brutal, but gonna get off another Sky Attack here, and I'm kind of hoping that I can come in with Palkia and be able to do some chip damage. But because our switch timers are synced up, essentially, this is not going to work out. So should have probably just done the Sky Attack right there. There was really no reason not to. But gonna bring in my Palkia here, get off an Aqua Tail, and unfortunately my opponent is gonna no-shield this, and I do realize at this point that he has stored a Fire Punch as well on Groudon, and Groudon does win CMP over Lugia. So gonna have to come in. I'm a little bit too low, even sneaking through the Dragon Tail, and despite the ability here to farm down, my opponent already has the move locked and loaded, so I'm going to go ahead and concede over here. So there's really no chance to win. But that's a really interesting team overall. It's definitely Lugia lead with two kind of soft or exact steel counters in the back. So kind of a bad situation for us overall in general. My Excadrill really had no play because I couldn't win switch advantage. And of course, it got answered on the safe swap right there. So GG's and really well played to the opponent. And that's going to end our set. Alright, and as you can see on the up and up here in the 2700s right now, we actually got 2 expert with this team and then had a kind of a really bad set on the last set of the night, dropping us back down to 2730, but once again, one more step closer to that legend push in Season 8 of GBL. So this is a really solid team, so I'm definitely going to try it again on stream at some point. I do think that it's a very cool team, but you can kind of see the early mistakes I was making with the Lugia matchups. Still a Pokemon that I have to learn and really master in order to have the best performance. So once again, if you like this content, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next Master Classic video.